16 people murdered, 0 convictions, 1 killer never caught. Florence, Italy, city of art, romance, and culture. Darkness lurked in the hills. For 17 years, a predator hunted young lovers in parked cars outside Florence. The weapon was always the same, a .22 Beretta pistol fired with deadly precision. The targets never changed. Couples seeking privacy in moonlit countryside outside the city limits. The murder stopped in 1985 without explanation. The killer was never identified. Case remains open. Some call it Italy's greatest mystery. Others believe authorities buried the truth deliberately and permanently. 8 couples killed, 16 lives destroyed, hundreds of suspects. No answers after 4 decades of investigation. The Monster of Florence terrified Italy and permanently changed the nation's entire criminal justice system forever. But who was he? Why did he stop? Is the real killer alive today? August 21, 1968. Barbara Locci and Antonio Lobianco were found shot in a car. Police called it a crime of passion. Barbara's husband was convicted and imprisoned for 14 years. But 6 years later, the husband was in prison when it happened again, identically. September 14, 1974. Stefania Pettini and Pasquale Gentilcore were murdered in their car near Florence. Same location type, same weapon exactly, same execution style. A serial killer was finally born. The .22 Beretta became his signature. Ballistics proved the same gun killed all subsequent victims definitively. He would approach parked cars on dark roads, fire multiple shots through windows with practiced precision. Then he would mutilate female victims in specific ways. This signature never changed across attacks. Police realized the 1968 murders were his first. Barbara Locci's husband was completely innocent all along. The monster chose secluded lovers' lanes with no witnesses. He knew the countryside intimately and perfectly. June 6, 1981. Giovanni Foggi and Carmela Denuccio were killed in Scandicci outside Florence altogether. This time, witnesses heard screams. Police flooded the area. The killer escaped into darkness completely undetected. October 23, 1981. Stefano Baldi and Susanna Cambi died in Calenzano. Same method and weapon again. Panic spread across Florence rapidly. Young couples abandoned the countryside. Tourism dropped as fear gripped Italy. June 19, 1982. Antonella Migliorini and Paolo Mainardi were murdered in Monte Spertoli, near isolated vineyards at night. The killer was growing bolder. Attacks increased in frequency. Police had no leads despite massive investigations. September 9, 1983. 2 German tourists, Horst Meyer and Uwe Jens Rusch, were killed in their van. The monster didn't realize they were male. He mutilated Jens, thinking he was a woman initially. This mistake proved the killer attacked in complete darkness. He selected targets by silhouette and car positioning only. July 29, 1984, Claudio Stefanacci and Pia Rontini died in Vicchio. Brutality was escalating rapidly now. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at the prosecutor's office containing disturbing evidence from Pia's body itself. The killer was taunting authorities. He wanted recognition. The psychological profile was becoming clearer each day now. September 8, 1985. Nadine Morio and Jean-Michel Kravechvili, French tourists, became the final confirmed victims of terror. Their tent was found near San Cassiano. Blood everywhere. The monster had struck for the last time. Then silence. No more murders, no more letters. The Monster of Florence simply vanished completely forever. Police arrested over 100,000 suspects. interrogated thousands, found nothing conclusive despite unprecedented efforts and resources expended. The first major suspect was Stefano Mele, Barbara Locci's husband, released after new murders occurred identically. Next came Enzo Spalletti, arrested in 1984 with circumstantial evidence. He had no alibi for several murders. But Spalletti was in prison during one attack. He was released. The killer was still free. Then police pursued the Sardinian trail. Multiple Sardinian men from Barbara Locci's circle were suspected of involvement. This theory suggested a group committed the crimes together, seeking revenge for dishonor in their community culture. 5 men were arrested. All had connections to each other. The case seemed finally solved after years. But the evidence was circumstantial. Witnesses recanted testimonies. Confessions were obtained through questionable methods reportedly used extensively. All Sardinian suspects were eventually released without any charges. The theory collapsed. Investigators were back to zero. In 1993, police arrested Pietro Pacciani, a farmer with violent criminal history and documented rage issues. Pacciani had been convicted of murdering a traveling salesman in 1951 in jealous rage over a woman. Anonymous tips suggested he owned a .22 Beretta. Witnesses placed him near crime scenes on attack dates. The trial became a media circus. Italy watched as prosecutors built their case against the peasant farmer. 1994. Pacciani was convicted. Italy celebrated. The Monster of Florence was finally caught and imprisoned at last. But in 1996, the conviction was overturned. Evidence problems and procedural errors destroyed the prosecution case completely. A retrial was ordered. Before it could begin, Pietro Pacciani died mysteriously in his home, alone. Police then arrested Pacciani's friends, Mario Vanni and Giancarlo Lotti, who confessed to being accomplices supposedly together. The prosecution claimed Pacciani led a group. They committed murders together for satanic rituals and dark purposes, but confessions contradicted each other. Evidence was mishandled. Witnesses were unreliable or clearly lying to investigators repeatedly. The weapon was never found. Number 22. Beretta ever recovered despite searches of properties and surrounding land. DNA technology was primitive in the 1980s. Evidence was contaminated. Chain of custody was broken repeatedly. Crime scenes were poorly secured. Journalists walked through locations. Evidence was photographed, but not properly collected correctly. The killer left no fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses who saw his face clearly at any scene. He operated in total darkness, chose locations with no streetlights, wore gloves, planned meticulously always beforehand. The weapon's ballistics matched perfectly, but the gun itself vanished. It was never used in other crimes. Anonymous letters were analyzed. Handwriting experts disagreed. No consensus was reached about the writer's identity conclusively. Some evidence suggested multiple killers, different techniques in some murders, slightly varied mutilation patterns occasionally noted by examiners. But the .22 Beretta proved continuity. Same gun, same killer, same hand pulling the trigger every time. The investigation was plagued by incompetence and corruption. Interagency rivalry destroyed cooperation and effectiveness throughout the process. By the 2000s, the case was effectively cold. New theories emerged. None were proven conclusively at all. Theory 1. Pietro Pacciani was guilty but worked alone. His friends lied to reduce their own involvement. Theory 2. Wealthy Florentines committed the murders for occult rituals and pleasures, protected by powerful connections in society. Theory 3. The Sardinian connection was correct, but evidence was buried to protect families from scandal. Theory 4. The killer was a police officer with inside knowledge, allowing him to evade capture repeatedly. Theory 5. Multiple killers used the same gun, possibly purchased on the black market or passed between criminals. American author Thomas Harris researched the case while writing Hannibal. He suggested international criminal connections possibly involved somehow. Francesco Ferri, a judge, reopened the investigation in 2002. He pursued the satanic cult theory aggressively with resources, but no concrete evidence emerged. No cult was found. No ritual sites discovered. The theory fell apart. In 2004, pharmacist Francesco Caligari was investigated. He had connections to some suspects and victims, supposedly through circles. Nothing came of it. Like all theories before, it dissolved under scrutiny and lack of evidence. Today, the case remains officially open. Florence police still receive tips. Most lead absolutely nowhere productive whatsoever. The victims' families have never received justice. Barbara Locci's son spent his life seeking answers about his mother. Some investigators believe the killer died years ago. Perhaps Pacciani was guilty. Perhaps someone long forgotten entirely. Others think he's alive, elderly, living quietly in Florence, walking the same streets as tourists every day. The Monster of Florence changed Italian criminal procedure. Investigations improved. Evidence handling was reformed significantly with new protocols. But 16 people are still dead. The killer was never definitively caught. Justice was never truly served. If you visit Florence today, ask locals about Il Mostro. Most will know the story immediately. Some crime scenes have memorials now. Flowers mark the spots where young lovers died seeking romance. The case represents everything wrong with Italian justice. Corruption, incompetence, and ego destroyed the investigation from beginning. But it shows the limits of forensic science. Sometimes, despite everything, killers simply get away with murder. The Monster of Florence is still out there in theory, in memory, in Tuscan countryside darkness.